Watching a couple of players, making their Warden Healers, which is really great, awesome. I think it's really cool. A lot of people are like embracing the Warden Healer. The only problem of it is I see people struggling with rotation, and when you take a look at a couple of YouTube's videos and YouTubers, they're kind of missing very important points when it comes to describing what the Warden, how to properly set up the Warden Healer's rotation and the applied effects. For example, one known YouTuber was talking about the spores and it has to heal to get the applied effect. I assure you that's not the case, because as you guys can see my buffs at the bottom, when I hit budding the spores, the applied effect's already there, right? So I get the minor intellect and minor endurance without having to heal. So anything within my line of sight that gets hit with that is going to get the minor endurance and minor intellect. Do not let anybody tell you any different. That if the heal doesn't apply, you're not going to get that buff. That's not the case. You're always going to get that buff, as long as it's in the line of sight. Okay? Very important. There is a very specific YouTuber who said that. He was completely wrong. We can be wrong, so I'm not going to go ahead and scold him. I've been wrong in the past too. But the major thing about this is understanding the Warden's strengths and weaknesses. The Warden has a nice amount of healing. The problem of it is majority of the healing has to be line of sight, right? It has to be. So the one thing that I really always want to stress to players is the importance of mutagen. Applying this effect on your Warden. The reason being is this gives a buffer, a heal buffer. It kind of gives you a chance to lay down your rotation without people dying from the get. So the mutagen is very, very, very important in your start rotation. Right? So, because everything has to be line of sight. Mutagen doesn't have to be. So mutagen is going to kind of apply without anybody having to be in line of sight. So once again, I'm always going to tell people, take advantage of the mutagen with the Warden Healer. It is a benefit to you. Another benefit also is the leeching vines. You do not have to be line of sight for the leeching vines to apply. So once this applies to one of your targets and they start dealing damage, it's going to apply another healing effect. So these two effects aren't line of sight. This gives you time to go ahead and lay down the healing springs and then apply your buffs and then apply your hot in your line of sight rotation. Okay, another very important aspect to the Warden Healer is to keep your Blue Betty up at all times, especially if you're going to run the Necropotence. Now, if you're going to run Trials, I would not suggest maybe running the Necropotence if you don't have a set like Worm or anything. Now, if the other healer has Worm, you can run a Necropotence and you'd be fine with that. That would increase your healing considerably. But if they're not running Worm, go ahead and get the Worm, keep the Spell Power Cure, and then you can offset that difference. But Blue Betty is very important to keep up regardless, because you're going to get that magic recovery. That's important, especially even if you're going to be using Elite Drain or anything, because you don't want to bottom out, because when you bottom out, players will die. Okay, another very important understanding is Lotus Blossom. The problem I see most healers do is they don't take advantage of their weaving. Weaving is very, very important, because the one thing that weaving is going to go ahead and do, and especially on the restoration staff, is it's going to apply, and keep in mind I'm still unlocking a lot of things here, is that Essence Drain. When you heal with a fully charged heavy attack, it's going to heal 38% of the damage of the final hit to you and nearby allies. That's very, very important. You capitalize with the Lotus Blossom because anytime you do light or heavy attacks, you're also increasing healing. This is a stacking effect on your resto staff. Also keep in mind that gives you major mending. When you do a fully charged heavy attack, you're going to get major mending, and that's also going to increase your healing capability. So very, very, very important, guys. 1 second, I forgot to switch this out. Also, keep in mind to use your utilities. I see a lot of healers doing really well, but DPS starts struggling. Keep in mind they've changed Neurotic Orbs. And this benefits all healers. You know, Templars are still going to go ahead and use their shards. Why? Because it does the same effect as Neurotic Orbs. But if you're any other healing class, you want to get this ability because you want to go ahead and help your DPS restore their stamina or their magicka. So, very important, guys. Make sure you're going ahead and you're frequently rolling out your utilities so they can go ahead and keep the DPS up high. Now, keep in mind there's a GCD applied to shards and orbs, but you guys want to throw this out as frequently as possible. All right? So, very, very important stuff here, guys. So, the one thing I'm also wanting to tell people to do is take advantage of your Mundus, right? So, for example, right now, I switched over. My crit is only at 41.9. The one thing I want to always go ahead and do, if I'm not running a crit-based set, now, so let's say you're running a crit-based heal set. You know, whatever, you know, pick your poison or whatever. If you're running any type of crit, you want to go ahead and you might take the ritual. But if you're not running the ritual and your crit's low, you want to go ahead and get the thief. So I'm going to go down. I'm going to grab the thief. This is going to take up my crit percentage up to 55 point something. This is very, very important because the higher your crit chance, the more frequently you're going to be critically healing for. That is very important for a healer because keep in mind, our bless has been taken down from 25 to a maximum 15, but we're not going to go 15 because of diminishing returns. So we want to capitalize on critical heals. Critical heals becomes a major focal point between our weaving. So we want to weave, we want to lay down our rotation as frequently as possible, and we want to capitalize on crit heals. Very, very simple. So I'm going to go ahead and grab this real quick, and I'll go show you what this is going to do for me. Now, like I said, if I was running a higher end crit, I'd probably go with the ritual. Or if I was on the DK and my crit was high enough, I'd probably go with the mage. But now, as you guys can see, now I'm up to 57.7 with my spell crit. That's increasing my chance to critically heal. So I just want to take advantage of that as much as possible. So this is kind of a very, very important aspect too to keep in mind as a healer. The crits do apply to healing effects. So today I just kind of want to go over the rotation too. So what I typically do in any scenario is I will throw the mutagen first along with the healing springs. What that now allows me to do is apply this, the budding seeds. Budding seeds, very, very, very important on the Warden Healer. It's not going to release its effect for until 6 seconds, but you can activate it and get the effect. Now, everybody has to be within the vicinity to receive the healing effect. That's very important. Now, it doesn't cost you anything to activate it, but though if you keep using this as a spammable, it's going to keep costing you more magicka. So if you're just kind of using this as spammable, it's not very productive. It's, you know, because you're not laying any other buffs, you're not laying any other effects. You want to go ahead and keep the effects applied at all times. This is very, very important as a healer. I want to go ahead, make sure I'm throwing out my combat buff. I want to apply the minor intellect and minor endurance. This increases recovery. I want to go ahead and I want to use the orbs. I want to keep my Blue Betty up. So I want to do a dungeon. I kind of want to make sure that most people are understanding proper rotation with healers. Now, a lot of healers differ, you know, from each. Luckily for me, I played every role as a healer. So, you know, even though there are slight differences, most of them have a similar type rotation, depending. But, you know, I always want to keep those buffs applied. I want to keep throwing out, you know, randomly. I want to keep throwing out utilities. I want to benefit my party to the maximum potential that I can. You know, and I want to listen out. If I'm on a mic and someone's like, I'm low on stamina, I want to redirect my orbs to that individual. If I'm not mic'd, I just want to kind of pay attention to the placement of the party. If they're within a close proximity, I will throw it. Whoever gets it, grabs it, and just keep applying. So I'm just going to pick up some dailies, see what we got going on. But, you know, I think it's great that a lot of people are adapting to the Warden Healer. A lot of people are just struggling with line of sight issues. If you're, for example, if I'm not in a trial, right here. If I'm not in a trial, or if I'm in a trial and someone's using Ellie Drain, I have the option of putting the Living Trellis down or going ahead and putting the Frost Cloak, which reminds me, I need to morph that. I was messing around. This is also going to help reduce the amount of damage they take, guys. That, you know, it gives basically a nice little cushion, you know, during your healing rotation. So if somebody else using Ellie Drain, I'll slot this, or I'll go ahead and slot the Trellis. All right, but this is pretty common. I want that Enchanted Growth slotted at all times. I want to apply the Minor Intellect and the Minor Endurance. I want my party to get the recovery as much as possible. I also want the Lotus Blossom. I want the Blue Betty. These are, you know, and for me, I don't go without the Budding Seeds. You probably could, but I don't. Mutagen, once again, I think this is kind of an important aspect for the Warden, just for the line of sight issue. But if you want to play a different way, like sometimes I'll slot in Ward, by all means do that. But keep in mind, rotation's important. Very, very, very important, guys. Very. And like, I always tell people about overhealing. Like, if you're using Spell Power Cure, overhealing's a good thing, because that's when the buff's applied.
Imperial City. How's this?
Well, it's something I definitely want to do today.
If the Daedra proved too much.
I probably still got yesterday's in here. Yeah, I didn't get to do any of these. I had plans, but then I got sidetracked. Okay.
You look way.
It should be one. Okay, pretty cake. I could probably do both these vets. Okay, I'm gonna switch my role. Reapply my food buff. I'm not gonna want to drop that off. Should get a Q pretty fast. Yep. Now, usually I go with all my DPS. If they're Magicka based, I go all healers first, and then I'll switch out. Okay, I don't need to be in there. Okay, the major thing like I want to do, and like I said, I want to keep rotation up as frequently as possible. Keep applying these effects. Okay, so always I'm going to keep up the Blue Betty and my Lotus. And then once I lay down the base, here's when I start weaving. Throw out the Ellie Drain, apply the buffs. Now, if I need recovery, I'm going to use that lightning. That's going to help me maintain my Magicka pool as well. On the splash damage, you know, it's kind of nice for an AoE effect, so I really do like it. Now, if I need to pop that budding seeds at any time, that's what's nice. Now I'm going to lay my healing springs on top of my budding seeds. I was wondering where he went. I was like, where's my tank? Alright. Now I usually always play the back, never up in front. So unless I'm PvPing, then that's a whole different ball game. Once my other DPS gets down here. Okay, now I'm going to blow the war horn. Keep in line of sight. they're gonna skip it. Okay, they can't. They shouldn't skip this mob. He's gonna teleport. That's gonna pull. Now here's a prime example. I know for a fact that I'm going to have people out of line of sight. This is where mutagen kind of plays the most important roles, guys. Making sure you're weaving with that resto staff, because that has no line of sight either. It's going to be applied to anybody who's low, so it's kind of important. Moving around your party members and not so much the boss. Don't focus on the boss. Anytime you're low, make sure you're hitting your pot. Now, everybody's kind of getting a little whatever. That mop's pulled. I'm going to go ahead, hit the ulti. Keep everything applied as much as possible. Don't hit the panic button. Get my pot up. Reapply. Oh, that's bad, that's bad, that's bad. Getting knocked down was bad, 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 bad. Okay. Still recovering. Okay, anytime I need it, gonna grab it. Knockdowns driving me nuts. Make sure I'm weaving up as much as possible. Get those extra heals out. Now once I get through the mobs, I'll just go ahead on my normal rotation. You got to make adjustments on the fly. Once you get used to healing, you kind of know what to do. See, he's behind me. Need bit it. DPS never. Okay, I get it. Look at, he's almost dead. Okay, I could have hit Warhorn or anything at any given time, but since those mobs pulled out, I don't want to risk blowing like a Warhorn when I had mobs like that. I want to hit that, you know, Northern Storm, try to reduce, you know, deal some damage, get that output out there. Clean them up as much as possible. Once again, once I've hit the budding, I'll always put down the circle on top of it. Keep my Betty out, keep my Lotus up. Okay. Here I might just fuck off, and usually I'll save ultimates for bosses, but anytime there's a bunch of ads, I'll go ahead and I'll throw out the Northern Storm. He's range, and see, here's another thing too, Deeps. Never stand behind the healer, even if it's a Templar. I don't ever like to, and this is why. Combat prayer, prime example. You're never going to get the buff from combat prayer if you're behind him. You want to be in front of your healers. It's true that you can use, you know, Breath of Life, and it has no line of sight issue. Problem of it is, you got to take into effect any other buffs applied. Okay, this is where I'll weave up with the lightning staff to recoup from the Ellie Drain. Feared. Keep applying that mutagen. Get the resto, get the major mending up. Keep applying the buffs. Get the Blue Betty out there. Throw the break. Once again, never panic. Keep everything kind of in front of you and you're good to go. Weave it up, drink the pot, throw down the mutagen. Reapply the Ellie Drain. Get the Lotus Blossom. Remember, even with the weave with the Lotus Blossom, I'm going to heal for that. Reapply the mutagen. Get the budding seeds on top. Combat prayer, keep that consistent. There you go. Probably skip the back boss. I don't know if they're going to. Yeah. Dang it. Come on, man. Let me... Why did... Sometimes you have to, like, please don't enter combat. Please do not enter combat. Sometimes you have to walk away from the door and go back up. There you go. Alright. I don't know why that DPS is still up there. Once he gets down here, I can blow the war horn. What? Okay, he's attacking from the top. I can't see my other dude. Once again, this is important with mutagen. Your weaves. Get in, give that cushion until you can get line of sight, guys. Okay. Once again, never hit the panic button. Hit the alley. Get the Lotus Blossom out. Weave it up. Throw the buffer. Lay down. Get the budding seeds if you need to. Hit it. Now, a lot of people would hit the panic button right there and activate their budding seeds. That's not necessarily a good thing. You want to go ahead and allow the effects to apply throughout the rotation. If you need to, do it, but just because they're down maybe a quarter or something, don't panic. Okay, weave it up. Get that budding seeds on top. Once again, just weave. I can finish off these little friggin' dumbass crabs. Come on. Now, on scrolls, I usually typically don't mind not doing scrolls. It all depends on my party members. I like to get scrolls out of the way, for sure. If I can hit the scroll every day of the week, best believe I'm going to. Now, see, I got a lot of mobs, so I'm just going to go ahead and hit this ulti up. Did I get this book? I guess I did. I usually like it when like if I tank, and I'll usually pull everything in this room, kind of kite them. That's how I do it, but hey, whatever. And once again, large mob. Oh! Wasn't anticipating that. Never really get knocked off here. There's one left. The more you get accustomed to healing too, it becomes easier to make you know, calls, what you need to throw out, what you should be throwing out. And in trials, it's a lot different because you have that other healer. You know, they'll call it out and they'll be like, hey, I'm throwing this, I'm throwing that, and it's all about, you know, your timing based off of the other healer. You know, where his placement, your placement. I'm not a real hardcore trial player. I only play, you know, whatever, when and what. I'm not competitive like I used to be. Like in other games, when I came to this game, I was like, no, I don't want to be that person anymore. But I'm thinking about recruiting for my guild for running trials. I'm debated. I just know how I can be. Oh, whatever. And then clear. The only thing I don't like about a clear is, like, you know, a mob comes back and starts hitting you when you're in like a fight or something. Kind of a pain in the ass. Now, the thing about this boss is you can actually, she can still kill you. You know, she gets that. Nice thing about the Warden, you're going to get that kind of health buff, and you hope it's enough. But this is probably where you slot in the healing ward. Nah, we're still in combat because no clear and I can't slot. Fuck. Yeah, this could be interesting. Yo, man. Hello? Yeah. Yeah, fuck it.
There will be no place for rabble like you in
What? No, 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 no. No. Just die. Yeah. It's the best. I think dude wants scroll. I can't say I blame him. I don't really need it, but just wipe it. We can hit the scroll. We can try with scroll. No, no, no. Just wipe it. Yeah. I don't know what their healths are or anything. I have 17. Yeah, Mine's a little low too. Hopefully the health buff just applies. We'll try one. We'll try one scroll run. I'm definitely down. I'll try with the mutagen. We'll see what happens. Come on. Let's roll this.
There will be no place for
Don't.
Rabble
I hate when
There's
DPS
full
does that. No, don't kite up. Don't kite her back. Why? 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 Yeah, forget it. Wipe this. What? Why? That's a first. Never seen a tank take her up there. Never. Never seen it. At this point, I just want to get out. We have a 26k tank. Can anybody say pre-Tamriel? I don't even have a tank near 26k. Even my Sork tank's not that low. And he's low. He's like 30 something. Frigate, let's go.
There will be no place for rabble like you in the
What?
Pelagaire's full-way rest.
Whatever. Once again, she's gonna hit me. I'm just going to... Don't panic. She gets that double hit off. That is a pain. I will admit this. Get that Betty out there. Start recovering. Closer AoE effect. Deep's got her. Got him. I don't know what the hell happened on that one. Just block. Regroup. Oh, let me get my... This is why I don't like to res as a healer. Some... Other deeps isn't going to get him up. Maybe. There you go. Trying to get these resources out. They're not hitting the synergies though. I think a lot of players are still trying to get adjusted to that. Switch out. Keep it up. Get this going back. Standing way too close. Oh, double hit. Double. She got me both on the 11. That can happen. That will happen. If she gets a double teleport, you're screwed. Let's see if I can... Running low. I'm just in hit mode, like, let's get this over with. Little drawn out. I already have all this. Alright, so the last boss didn't go quite as expected. You know, it can happen. 17k, 20 something on the tank, and I don't even know what this guy's 19. That's ideal right there. That's nice. I'm even a little low. But the important aspect is just keep rotation up. I mean, this is a pug, guys, and this is the most important aspect. And I always tell people, if you can pug vet dungeons and you can do it successfully with the healers, you're good to go. Because, you know, in trials you're going to have communication, you're going to have organized play, and you're going to make those adjustments. But getting more familiar with your healer, especially with the Warden Healer, and your rotation in vets becomes imperative. You have to keep working it. You have to practice. I always tell people, if you're a first-time healer, don't be overzealous. Don't go barreling into vets anticipating you to be a top-end healer. I always suggest going down in normal trials, get more adjusted with your rotation, more familiar with the skills, more familiar with when you need to pop a certain ability and when. Because as a healer, it's not as, in any mechanic, you're going to make adjustments, whether you're DPS, tank, or healer. But in healer, it becomes more important to understand what abilities are going to do what for you and when you need to pop those abilities. In this end game and this last boss, that's a prime example. I'm going to drain out more resources to get more focused on these deaths. I don't want to res as a healer. That's the last thing I ever want to do, because anytime I'm rezzing, the last thing I'm doing is healing. Now, if I can get the hots up and throw down hots and delayed effects, like I'm getting my healing springs, I'm throwing down the mutagen, I got a couple of seconds to res, that becomes very important timing when you can get those reses in, if the DPS isn't rezzing. But majority of the time, the DPS will make those adjustments and let the tank continue tanking and the healer to continue healing as they're rezzing. And that's smart play. That is a very smart play. But don't panic, man. If you're a first-time healer, especially with the Warden, don't become, discouraged. I don't want you to do that. Just practice, get more familiar. If there's a rotation that works for you and it's consistent, that's the most important aspect of healing, right? And especially with the Warden. If you like, the living trellis, if you like the vine, go with it. I might not use it in my rotation, but if it works for you, you might use that a little bit more in your rotation. But keeping familiar with your rotation, understanding, there are line of sight issues with the Warden, and making those adjustments, especially on weaves and applied effects, becomes important. Because keep in mind, guys, I want to go ahead and apply these buffs. I want to get these buffs applied. That's important to my DPS. I could be throwing out orbs a little bit more. Obviously, in trials, that becomes a lot more imperative. Also, heavy end attacks. So very, very important, guys, in all around sequence. So what becomes more important? Utility becomes more significant throughout your healing. No, healing's your primary concern. Utility is the second. You want to throw out the utility, but you want to get those buffs and you want to get those heals applied, then apply your utility. Okay, so as soon as everything's down, throw out your utility throughout your rotation. So I always go ahead, I'll throw my budding seeds, I'll throw this out, I'll get my buffs applied, and then I'll go ahead to the back bar and throw out my utility once everything's applied. I want to go ahead and get everything down as much as possible and throw out utility. All right? That's the ideal rotation for any scenario. Of course, being a healer, you're going to have to make those adjustments. If you have any questions or comments, please post below. I want to thank everybody for watching. I just hope this really helps a couple of people who are first-time healers, and especially, trying to make these adjustments with the Warden Healer. So that's why I really wanted to do this video. But I do want to thank everybody for watching once again, and as always, have a nice day.